Hi, this is me again, juniorbaconchee. I have watched your video and was very excited to get a response. And so here we are again, and I want to talk about monopoly. You have packed a lot of your views and thoughts on economic science into the answering video, and today I'm only going to talk about monopoly again, and later I will try to deal with the rest of your response. You claim the models I presented, the mathematic models, don't apply to the real world. This may be true for some economic assumptions. So, for example, if you want to describe a certain human being in the marketplace, it may be hard to derive a function to model his or her behavior. But here we are talking about something completely different. We are talking about a conglomerate of people operating, and we are still talking about the real world, this is pretty true, about a company. And a company is bound to producing a certain good and maximizing its outcome out of the market situation. So it is not what the individual would do, but rather what a conglomerate of people would do to maximize each of their outcomes of this situation. So there is in fact a necessity for mathematic models in economics to describe the complex action that multiple beings take with a prime directive. So I don't think praxeology always applies, and I don't really it's a little bit hard to understand what it is about. It kind of feels like it's got a Bentham flavor. I've read the Wikipedia page. I don't know if I got it right, but it seems like it's a behavioral approach to economics. So this doesn't apply here, to be honest. We are talking about a firm, and that has a certain prime directive. The directive of the individuals may be different, but the firm itself will supply the framework, not the individuals operating in it. Okay, here we are at the math again. So we want to ask ourselves, what is the prime directive of a firm, of a company, of a supplier? And you can easily derive that from its parts. You have certain people operating and trying to supply a good. And what do they actually agree on? They agree on one thing. They want to supply a good and make money from that. They didn't come together to do anything else but supply a good and make money. And therefore this function actually applies to this group of people who came together to produce and therefore maximize their profit. What I'm simply doing here is maximizing pi, yeah, you know, and trying to find the optimal point of pricing where I can find the best outcome for my firm, not the best outcome for the individual itself. It may be that one individual in the firm does not get as much profit as the other. So its profit may not be maximized in the framework of the company, but the company itself has a prime directive and maximizes its profit and therefore its utility, because it externalizes certain things, but we're not going to get into this now. So I'm not talking about perfect competition again, not because it's a touchy subject, but you already correctly stated that it is a certain state that we cannot reach. We can't have an infinite number of competitors, and I will get into this later again to show you some different things about your conception of monopolies. So this function actually applies also from human action, because we don't have many singular motions, many singular actions, but we have one combined action of a conglomerate. So keep that in mind. Okay, so this is probably the very end of my video, and I want to conclude with something a little bit about market power. So we can, I hope so, agree that a monopoly has a higher market power than any other competitor in this market would have, because there are no competitors. A monopoly can therefore charge a higher price and make more profit. So in a slightly watered down state, an oligopoly, you would have multiple competitors, and they would sort of have to arrange by reaction functions what price they would charge, or they could enter a cartel and charge a monopoly price and distribute it among them. So you said a monopoly cannot exist in free market conditions. So let's say we have an oligopoly, or a more watered down state of that, and we would have a company who has just finished the research on a certain product. So it has a new product which nobody can supply, and it is keeping the technology hidden. So this technology would be very valuable, because now the company can charge a monopoly price for the good it supplies now. So the question I want to put forth: have you ever heard about game theory? Now this would be something I think you would take a lot of interest in, because it deals with human action. How will humans act in a market situation, behaving as a company or whatever, a free agent, take your pick. And therefore I want to end on a little note. We are talking about market power, and market power, if it is completely equally distributed among an infinite number of competitors, you would have perfect competition, and therefore no monopoly could ever arise. But because we cannot ascertain this mythical kind of state where we don't have any market power to anyone, we have always dealt with oligopoly or monopoly. So I ask you, how could it even be possible to not have a monopoly on free market conditions, if not in fairyland? Yeah, this is a huge hole in your theory about markets in general, because monopolies are in a very basic way always about market power, not about power granted by the state necessarily. It can be granted by the state, of course, but a monopoly can also arise from natural conditions.